The message after the tone.
Yo, 148, 3 to the 3 to the 6 to the 9, representing the ABQ. What up, biatch? Leave it at the tone.
Chemistry is the study of matter, but I prefer to see it as the study of change.
Mr. White? You understood what I've just said to you.
Yeah. Lung cancer. Inoperable. DEA took all your money, your lab. You got nothing. Square one. But you know the business. And I know the chemistry.
Now, normally I'd say someone did the world a favor. But our snitch's car, turns out we find 2 grams of meth in it.
Where'd you get this? 'Cause I know your little punk ass didn't cook it.
We take it to the lab. They come back, they tell us it is the purest they've ever seen.
99.1%.
I mean, our chemist is blown away, said he couldn't do the same thing better. Worse yet, it didn't come out of some super lab in Mexico. We're thinking this was cooked right here in the land of enchantment. The car was abandoned in what appears to be a cook site. This is the only other thing left behind, so be on notice. We got new players in town.
Now let's get on to it. Canceran. The episode opens with Hank holding a briefing with his team of DEA agents. A short moment of humanity is given when the name of the project cannot be decided on. A little joking back and forth with his partner, Hank continues on and gives a quick rundown of Crazy 8 and Emilio, the 2 gangsters that were killed by Walt and Jesse. Both of them are missing, of course, and the meth found in Crazy 8's car turns out to be 99.1% pure, the purest they have ever seen. This alerts the DEA that they are not dealing with their usual suspects, but believe that it is home-cooked from the US and not imported due to finding a gas mask at the cook site. The mask is being sent off to get tested and examined, but they do know the meth that was found inside the filter is the same stuff found in Crazy 8's car. Hank starts describing who he thinks is the new kingpin of meth as the screen changes to Walt in his underwear again, brushing his teeth. The exact same costume that the series began with. This could be just mere coincidence or a chance for Walt to put on a new costume, if you will, and a new character. Here's where the credits roll. After we came back from commercial break, we start with a close-up of meat burning. And cuts to a distracted Walt White, a nice close-up. He's completely zoned out until Hank approaches and alerts Walt. The costume choices for these two characters is fun and says a lot about the people wearing them. Walt's signature green apron now has a kitschy design that says, "Something's cooking." This has some nice irony to it because I hope I'm using irony correctly. But the same cook that made the 99.1% pure meth is burning chicken on a grill. Hank, the DEA agent, is dressed like everyone's D-bag uncle. Shorts, shirt, sunglasses. The sunglasses are totally from a previous fashion trend. Walt finishes his second cook of chicken and joins the family at the table. Hank, Marie, Skylar, and Walt Jr. are enjoying an outdoor dinner with serious tension between Skylar and Walt. Walt leaves to get beverages for people and has a moment of the cool can being rubbed on his face. This scene cuts back at the end of dinner and a light conversation. Hank is giving Junior advice on women and the need for confidence. This leads to how he and Marie met and eventually how Walt and Skylar met. Walt goes into detail on how he noticed Skylar and how he earned her attention. Young Skylar used to be great at crossword puzzles, so Walt used this as an icebreaker when they met. The stroll down memory lane proves to be a bit too much for Skylar, and she begins to get emotional. This accelerates into a breakdown where she is asked what's wrong. Anna Gunn does a nice job here, the actress that plays Skylar, with the emotional scene. Most actors can cry on cue, that's kind of a whoop-de-doo, great job for them. But to make it look like it's natural and to convey just a wide array of emotions at the same time, it's definitely noteworthy. After being asked what is wrong, Skylar gets up and says to ask Walt. Walt then proceeds to tell them that he has cancer, giving some of the gloomier details on his chances to live. This is the first time Walt Jr. learns the information and initially seems to take the news with zero emotion. He didn't even seem surprised at all. There's not a flinch, there's just a look. He might as well have just been eating and, oh, guess Dad has cancer. I'm hoping that this is a choice, either actors or directors. The action cuts to Walt Jr. in his room with headphones on. We can hear some music and it sounds a bit like some collegiate douchebag rock. As the camera pans, we see that he is crying. The scene jumps directly to the living room, where the other family members are discussing the news and how long Walt kept the news to himself as a secret. Skylar's going through the stages of grief and is advanced to the stage of anger. We see that Walt has skipped right into acceptance. He's going to die. He has cancer, he's going to die, you can see it in his face. Marie, very level-headed, puts together a quick plan of action to get Walt the best care possible. Skylar gets up to check on Walt Jr. She verifies that this was the first time that Walt Jr. heard about the cancer as she's leaving. While Skylar is gone, Hank tells Walt that no matter what happens, he will be more than happy to take care of Walt's family. What a nice thing to say. Walt is distressed by this and gives a polite nod, and that ends the scene. Over at the Pinkman house, Jesse's house, the gates are closed and music can be heard playing. It's a dance-driven R&B song. It plays as a new character we haven't seen before walks through the hallway. His shoes stick to the floor and he begins to look around and eventually looks up. The hole that the bathtub fell through when they were melting bodies in acid is exposed. There is a ring of red around it and it looks pretty gross. I mean, this would definitely stop someone in the tracks and they'd call attention to it. As he enters the living area, Jesse is seated along with another character that we haven't met. They're smoking marijuana, and he asks Jesse about the hallway. He tells him that the house is just settling. One of the burnout friends offers his dad's contract services or something that he does. The conversation changes to meth cooking, where Jesse's old partner Emilio is brought up. And where is Emilio? All this talk of crystal has them craving just a little bit. They ask Jesse to smoke some meth and he tries to persuade them not to. Tells them he's trying to change it for health reasons, but then has to brag and says that he's come up with a new recipe or formula and that it is way more chemically it's just the bomb. Here's where I have an issue with some drug users. The person that cooked the drugs you're going to smoke, ingest, do whatever with, cannot even describe why it is better or what is better. And the big blood hole in the ceiling in someone's house would also put me off, but that's just me. So Jesse explains that it makes him paranoid when he smokes meth and would rather just smoke pot. Classic peer pressure is applied, and the two friends say that they'd rather leave than smoke pot with him. Jesse tells him he's just joking. It is a bummer to see someone trying to do what is good for them, only to have it be ruined by outside influences that push them back to their vice. It's like when someone in real life lays off the hooch for a while. There's always that one friend that is pushing a drink in their face whenever they're out and about. I found this to be a very relatable moment that has you feeling actually bad for Jesse. He eventually gives in, and they break out the meth pipe for Sunday night bowl, yo. The next morning, as the neighborhood wakes up, a strung out, tweaked Jesse sits at the window. His house is a complete mess. He hits the meth pipe once again, I assume to try to get it together. There is a new aspect added here that we haven't seen yet. The music begins and musical editing starts right away. It's used to convey his current condition of being stoned. The video is also edited with rough jumps to create short bursts that line up with the edited music. The effect has been used in many other shows, but it's usually reserved for a horror or a nightmare scene. The editing effect stops as the view changes to the exterior of the house. So when we're in Jesse's real close up on Jesse, we see this happening. We see Jesse through the window. Another jump is made back to the inside of the house, and the effect begins again, showing that he's stoned. The jumps are becoming more drastic, and the music is increasing in volume. Great job directorially. He looks back out the window, and he sees two motorcycles approaching. The men driving them are large and quite foreboding. As they get off their bikes, each pulls out a weapon. One is a hand grenade, and the other is a machete. There are some interesting choices that are made here. It's clear to see why they brought in Jim McKay instead of using who they had been, because there's a definite different feel to the whole thing. You might not like the style that he uses to convey this drug sequence, but it is very effective and you know what's going on. Off-center shots, overexposed, time manipulation, and many other tools were used, and they portray his altered state well. This scene is so different from what we have seen in the prior episodes that it makes me feel Jim McKay was brought in specifically to do this one scene and just happened to do the rest of the episode. It's an excellent moment. But you see a hand pounding on the door with like a blue filter in what looks to be a slightly slowed motion. It's a little slower than regular time. He hears the banging and grabs the meth stash out of a hidden compartment on the speaker box. Jesse runs outside, he dives under the RV, climbs out, and then just keeps on running like the devil is chasing him. We see the hand knocking on the door again, but this time there's no blue filter and everything's moving at the correct speed, or seems to be. The hand stops knocking, and we then see some literature hung on the door. It says, "Jesus Christ is your answer." It appears to be the two men on the bikes coming to get Jesse were actually two religious teenagers out speaking the word of the Lord. I would guess these two boys either sing in a tabernacle choir or they have a couple copies of Watchtower in their bag. Not that their religion really matters, they were knocking on the door with pamphlets. The boys leave, and we have no idea where Jesse Pinkman has went off to. The scene goes completely black. At the White House, Walt is in the bathroom redressing his wound. That is where Crazy 8 was awkwardly stabbing him in the leg with the plate. He removes the bandage. We see 3 distinct cuts. They're decent sized. He applies peroxide and then super glue to the wound. He finishes by putting his pants on, but some of the blood actually bled through to his pants. He removes the pants again and starts to scrub the blood out. This prompts a coughing fit, and Skylar hears him, and she inquires how his progress is. When he walks out of the bathroom, we hear his wife setting up an appointment and paying the deposit with their credit card. Skylar is excited about how her sister Marie has come through. Walt is seeing one of the best oncologists in the country. How nice. Skylar has more confidence now that she's in control of her husband's healthcare situation. The secret's out there. All of the mishaps that happened while he was cooking the meth, while he was gone, all relate to, oh, he had cancer, it's by smoking pot. Walt learns that the deposit is $5,000. The conversation of money comes up, and different opinions are discussed. Walt tells Skylar that he will borrow it from his pension. Cut to Walt opening an air vent in the nursery, his pension. He pulls out a stash of cash and begins counting some out. The vent turns on in an almost cartoon fashion. Money gets sucked up. As Walt is grabbing what he can, Walt Jr. walks in. He confronts his dad and asks him why he is acting so weird. Walt Jr. also tells his father he is acting like nothing is going on. And after Jr. leaves, we get a nice shot of Walt as he glances at the crib that will hold his second child. The crib has a little sticker on it that says Tampico. Tampico is the shop where Crazy 8 grew up and his father did the commercials with his uncle. Walt is not cracking under the pressure of the cancer because he is emotionless. He is becoming someone else to cope with this. In this case, he has become the killer of someone else's child. His realization was quite powerful, and I highly recommend you go back and rewatch that scene. There's a direct cut to the next scene. Walt's Pontiac Aztek is driving down the road. He is matching the car so perfectly that he could go camouflage with what's going on. His clothes, his interior, everything matches. As he's driving, we hear a police car approaching and we see the lights flashing. Walt becomes extremely nervous and begins mumbling little hopes as he hides this huge wad of cash under the dashboard. He pulls over and the police car speeds by. The sense of relief turns into a little after. Walt pulls into a parking lot and sees a truck about to pull out of a spot. He backs up to give the other driver room. When he does this, a red BMW with the personalized plates Ken wins takes his spot. Ken gets out of the car. Ken is a douche. He has Bluetooth earpiece and is talking so loud that everyone can hear him. Golly, this guy must be important. Kyle Bornheimer, the actor that plays Ken, does a fantastic job of this. This is a small role that was done so well that people who know this series, if you say Ken wins, they know what you're talking about. This character is someone that we have all seen somewhere in real life. He is the guy in the bathroom stall that's talking over the dryers blowing so loud that we all know what's going on with his life. To play someone that we know this well and we've all seen and hate this person, it's a well-deserved way to go, Kyle. Good job on this character, man. Ken walks into the bank and we see Walt's face through the windshield. Filter is using this sequence or the windshield is causing a blue tint, one of the two. It seems more to be planned like a filter than it just happened to be the windshield. The camera cuts to an interior shot giving a great view of Ken's Bluetooth. Everyone can hear him talking. The conversation is about Ken's bonus and how important he is at his company. He uses inappropriate language at high volumes and starts checking out one of the tellers at the bank. He does not adjust his volume at all. He then comments on how Stacy is a cow. Obviously someone on the other end of the Bluetooth mentioned Stacy. The old saying of roller and flour is used and people start to grimace a little bit. Walt is distracted by Ken's conversation and the phone call, but he is called over to the next teller. Everyone can hear Ken talking over their own conversations. Walt gives the cash to the teller and asks for a check for the oncologist. Walt then spells out the word oncologist for the teller. This is slightly awkward and maybe a sign that Walt was feeling sheepish that he didn't say something to Ken wins, but that's what happened. It's just a moment of uncomfortability as he's spelling it. The scene cuts to an upscale house in a quiet neighborhood. The interior shot is a family at the traditional evening dinner. The child seems to be a little young to be their kid, but then again, he could just be an oops. Their conversation is about the boys' orchestra class, school, and what instrument should be pursued for this kid. The adults seem very supportive and interested in what's going on. There is a noise from the backyard. The family steps out and finds Jesse Pinkman with his foot stuck in a lawn chair. He's struggling to keep it together, it seems, mentally, as he's a little tweaky and looking all over. Jesse greets the family with Mom, Dad, and Jacob. So we've met the Pinkman family. Inside there is a custom framed pieces of art that were created by a young Jesse Pinkman. The first one is an old man in his underwear being hit by a monster truck. The truck has the plates JP as if Jesse was the driver. The stickers from the teacher are supportive. This piece was created in 1991. The second one is the Hindenburg tragedy and says, "Oh, the humanity." This was created in 94. Although the artwork is better than most adults could do, the subject matter is a little bit disturbing for a young child. There are two photos of young Jesse, assumably from 91 and 94, and then we cut to him laying in bed. A slightly artistic time lapse of the day passing by is used. A shot of Jesse's parents' house in the morning as the sun's coming up, and then all throughout the day. This is actually an interesting addition here, or angle to use here, because the serenity of their house is created as soon as we see the morning sun, but as the evening approaches, the house goes dark again. Jesse's still in bed. He's going to ruin the serenity of this household. His parents are downstairs making dinner and discussing what Jesse might be on. They're extremely naive when it comes to drugs. The parents talk about him staying and going and maybe going to a church group. Jesse approaches and asks what time dinner is. This turns into the mom starting to break a little bit. She offers to wash his clothes. Jesse walks out of the room. The father tells the mother, "We're not going to do this again." How many times has he hurt his parents? We don't know any of this stuff. But the father puts his foot down and is going to lay down the law. He then sees Jesse setting the dinner table. Jesse uses care and concern to set the table. He even corrects the direction of a utensil. This stops the dad in his tracks. If you've ever seen parents get played by their kids, this was perfection. Jesse knew exactly what buttons to push to get his way. And then he looks up as if he saw the parents coming through the window, so it's almost like a little portrayal he put on. Over at the high school, Junior is looking through a telescope or a microscope in Walt's classroom. Walt is a little eager to learn his son is going to be riding home with him. You see some excitement in his face. They each move at opposing corners of the screen. This setup of the scene is very clean and clear. Walt is on the left as a teacher, behind rows of tables and chairs, and the periodic chart of elements is right behind Walt. Junior sitting completely exposed on a stool. We see his entire body with blue blinds behind him. And blue still seems to be the color choice that was used for Walt's family. There are some false borders in between them, like posters or wall borders where a corner is created, but no solid hurdle is between the two men. The blue door is almost directly in the middle of the two characters. Junior is clearly attempting to extend an olive branch to his father, but says nothing. Walt offers up some standard hope that, hey, everything is going to work out. They have a look that is rivaled only by a stare on Little House on the Prairie, just that full-on dramatic pause. The master shot is then regained and both characters continue being shut off from each other. It was a kind of a lost opportunity for the characters, or not, we'll see in the near future. Hanging on a wall is, cut to a new scene. Hanging on a wall is a plaque for Jacob Hinkman. Mathlete 2007. There are multiple trophies and medals on the wall. It seems to me that Jesse was about 18 when Jacob was born. I did attend public school, so give me a little break on the math figuring out. But why does it matter? It just does. We need to know how old Jesse was and what happened. When we evaluate Jacob's room, it looks tight as a whistle on first glance, but pause it and take a second look. Someone spent a long time hanging all of those medals one by one, but then there's one that's over by itself hanging by the door light. There's clothes sticking out of almost all of the drawers. The bed's not made. There's a puzzle spilt on the floor. And did you see all of those post-its? What's going on here? So Jesse tries to make small talk and offers up some advice. It comes across as strange. Jesse is confident that he has solid advice to give his little brother, and he tells Jacob that he's seen it all. This did not play as a druggy spouting talk. It came across as a big brother trying to give advice to his little brother without pushing for a problem. Jesse then returns to himself by asking that we get some Jethro Tull on the piccolo. If you don't know who Jethro Tull is, it's an English rock band, and yes, there was a flute, but it could have been substituted with the piccolo. Mom walks in awkwardly and asks how everyone was doing. She made it clear that she did not like Jesse alone with Jacob. She pushes the door all the way open as she leaves. Jesse brings it up to Jacob, who then tells his big brother that, what are you talking about? You're their favorite son. That's all they ever talk about. Jesse goes out for a smoke and then back in. This little snippet of a scene was a bit too Dawson's Creek for me. He really might as well have been standing over a river thinking about how hard it is to be him. It didn't seem to fit in, and it was like a time gap for some reason. Jesse is then laying in bed and he can't sleep. He gets up and opens a trunk at the foot of his bed. It has his childhood toys in it. Some sketches. The sketches are good, but again, perhaps a window into a child's need for help, like a little window into Jesse's psyche when he was young. He finds a sketch of Walt White. He's laughing quietly. The sketch has Walt bent over with a beaker shoved up his butt. The caption says, "Why Mr. White loves chemistry." He flips it over, It's a chemistry quiz that he earned an F on. Mr. White's words of wisdom on the bottom are ridiculous. Apply yourself. Again, at first glance, it's like, this seems a little bit harsh for a teacher to say. But if you pause it and you read the test and the answers, you will see that Jesse did not even try. He was lucky to get his name on the paper. There's a moment of contemplation when all of a sudden Jesse's phone goes off. It's the meth smoking friend from the beginning, and he wants to buy some crystal meth. The friend explained who it was for and that there would be ample money involved. Jesse hems and haws, and then he's like, oh, we'll just buy all of it. Jesse doesn't answer, he just gives kind of a breath, and it cuts to Walt, who is pulling air filters out to try to find the money that was sucked up earlier. As he gets elbows deep into the vent, the doorbell rings. Walt cringes as he sees that it is Jesse. They walk to the backyard. Walt asks why he is there and accuses Jesse of wearing a wire. A fun little scene back and forth. They played with some banter. Jesse tells him he's there to get a debriefing. This is a strange vocabulary choice for Jesse's character. I don't know why yet, but he then tells Walt how great his work, the crystal meth work is, and everyone loves it. Jesse puts out an offer to cook some more meth. Walt tells him to leave and not to come back. Jesse throws $4,000 at him and says, there's the money for your half. I didn't smoke it all. Walt begins scooping the money out of the pool as Jesse leaves. We're at the oncologist's office. The oncologist is meeting with Walt and Skylar to tell them how bad Walt's cancer is. The doctor's explaining that it is treatable. It's weird, behind him is this barren desert as he's giving the advice or his findings. He starts to give the effects of the side effects to the treatment. They don't sound great at all. Walt begins to zone out, and we hear that same tone we heard the first time he heard that he had cancer. At the Pinkman estate, the cleaning lady finds a joint in a plant. The plant is in the room Jesse is using. The two parents and Jesse are sitting at the table having a very back-to-school special talk about drugs. Jesse said that he knows nothing about it. The mother lays it all out on the table and asks how many times he is going to do this to them. He is then told to leave, so he grabs the joint as he goes. Cut to an exterior shot. Jesse is standing out at the road. Jacob comes out and thanks Jesse for not telling them that it was his joint. Jacob asks for it back. Jesse destroys it, tells him, you know what, it's skunk weed anyway. He gets into a cab and leaves Jacob standing teary-eyed in front of the house. We don't know really what's going on there other than his little brother smokes some pot. Meanwhile, Skylar is educating herself about cancer with a pamphlet from the oncologist. She clearly has developed some hope here and asks if Walt will start treatment next week. And he sidesteps the subject. Walt wants to wait because of the money. $90,000 out of pocket. Gilligan totally foreshadowed the Affordable Care Act here. Walt has a huge guilt about spending all of the money because if he dies, then he's going to leave them completely desolate with debt. Junior interrupts with a question to Walt, and that is, why don't you just die already? If you're going to give up, just die. This is a powerful moment because Junior uses the F word here at his parents, and we haven't seen that kind of attitude from him. He's playful, but never to the point like this. He spoke the truth, and it left both the parents speechless. We then see Walt driving while he has a coughing fit. He pulls over to regain his composure and sees a little blood in his hand. A horn can be heard honking in a man's voice. Walt looks up and sees it's Ken Wins pulling up to the gas station. Ken walks into the station. Walt switches out of his alter ego and becomes Cancer Man, in my opinion, when reminded of the cancer because he saw the blood. When Walt realizes that he has cancer, he becomes Mr. Zero, and you don't F with Mr. Zero. He has nothing to lose at this point. The coughing fits completely stop. He calmly and confidently strolls over to the BMW, grabs the window squeegee from the gas station, reaches in, opens the hood. His movements are that of a completely another person. The directness and focus that he is showing here defines a part of this character that has not been realized yet in the series. The squeegee is used to short out the battery, which causes a vapor fire and an acid explosion. This makes you think twice about messing with your science teachers. Ken comes running out, but does not notice Walt, because Walt so smoothly walked over to his car, and then as he drives off, the BMW burns. Now let's talk about meth. According to Forever Recovery, there are 7 stages of a meth user. And here they are. Number 1, after they take the drug, there's an excitement rush that lasts about 30 minutes. 2, focused and awake. This person will feel smart and important, like they know everything. This lasts 4 to 16 hours. Number 3, the person will binge on any intoxicant they can get their hands on to try to revive that feeling of high. This will last 3 to 15 days. 4, angry and rage-filled lasts for days or hours. 5, crash. The body will shut down for 1 to 3 days. 6, a hangover that includes all of the fun of a regular hangover but lasts 2 to 14 days. 7 is withdrawal or start the whole thing over again. This is enough to make most people stay off the pipe forever, but some people will try and argue that these facts are not true. Along with all of these facts that are here, there are other side effects. Remember, if you or someone you know is having a hard time with drugs, please get yourself or get them help. That is going to wrap it up for us here at Television in Review. That was episode 4, season 1, Cancer Man. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you will join us next week for the next episode of Breaking Bad, Gray Matter. I'm Dre Daly, good night, and good watching.
You wanna cook crystal meth?
I know you. He was there when I got busted. He's with the DEA. Oh, shit. I'm so sorry.
We got new players in town.
I have cancer.
Hey, Dad. Hey, Mom.
We need you to leave.
$4,000. Your share. I'm selling that batch.
That's something you should know.
We have excellent health insurance.
We're in business.
It's not right.
Come back here, you bitch!
What I need is a choice.
I'll tell you the truth.
Want to cook?